The corner booth at Marcello's felt like a cage, even though the restaurant was one of the nicest places I'd been in months. Red leather seats, dim amber lighting that made everyone look softer than they were, and the kind of quiet jazz that was supposed to make you feel sophisticated instead of suffocated. I pressed my back against the booth, creating as much distance as possible between myself and Derek, my boyfriend of 18 months. He sat across from me, scrolling through his phone with that expression I'd learned to dread. Jaw tight, eyes hard, the muscle near his temple twitching in a way that meant I'd done something wrong. I just didn't know what yet. "You're being quiet," Derek said without looking up from his screen. "What's wrong with you tonight?" "Everything," I wanted to say. Everything is wrong. But I'd learned that honesty with Derek was a luxury I couldn't afford, so I smiled the way I'd practiced in the mirror. "Nothing's wrong, just tired from work." Tired. He set his phone down with deliberate care, finally looking at me. "You're always tired lately, Sophia. Makes me wonder what you're really doing at that bookstore all day." My stomach tightened. We'd had this conversation before, the one where he implied I was lying about my schedule, about the customers I helped, about everything. The one where his voice stayed calm and reasonable while his words carved away at my credibility, piece by piece. "I'm just restocking inventory and processing orders," I said quietly. "It's holiday season, we're busy." "Busy?" He leaned forward slightly. "Too busy to text me back for 3 hours this afternoon?" "I was on the floor helping customers. My phone was in the back room." "So you say." His hand shot across the table and wrapped around my wrist, fingers digging into the exact spot where last week's bruises had finally faded to nothing. "But I called the store, twice. They said you were on your lunch break. So where were you, Sophia?" Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed. Because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The pressure on my wrist increased, and I bit the inside of my cheek to keep from making a sound. Making a scene would only make everything worse later. I went to the deli next door. I needed to eat. "You needed to eat." His voice dripped with contempt. "You couldn't wait until we had dinner together? You couldn't think about anyone except yourself for 5 minutes?" "Derek, please." I tried to pull my hand back, but his grip tightened. "You're hurting me." "I'm hurting you?" He smiled then, the one that probably looked charming to anyone watching. "You hurt me every time you lie, every time you disrespect me by ignoring my calls, every time you act like I'm not the most important thing in your life. But somehow, I'm the bad guy here?" The words were familiar, the script we'd performed dozens of times. I was selfish. I was ungrateful. I was lucky he put up with me at all. And maybe he was right. Maybe I was all those things. Because if I wasn't, why would I still be sitting here? A waiter appeared beside our table, tall and lean with dark hair and eyes that were almost black in the dim lighting. He wore the standard black vest and white shirt of Marcello's staff, but something about him felt different from the other servers I'd seen moving through the dining room. He carried himself with a quiet authority that didn't match his role. "Good evening," he said, his voice deep and slightly accented. Italian, maybe, though I couldn't be sure. "Are you ready to order, or do you need a few more minutes?" Derek released my wrist to wave him off dismissively. "We need more time. Come back later." But the waiter didn't move. His dark eyes had fixed on my wrist, where red marks were already forming against my pale skin. I instinctively pulled my hand into my lap, hiding the evidence, but it was too late. He'd seen. "Actually," the waiter said, his tone unchanging but somehow carrying more weight, "I'd recommend starting with our house wine. Compliments of the establishment." He set down 2 glasses I hadn't noticed him carrying. "Take your time reviewing the menu." He walked away before Derek could protest, disappearing into the kitchen with a purpose that suggested this was more than just standard service. Pretentious, Derek muttered, returning his attention to me. These high-end places think they're doing you a favor by forcing their wine on you. He pushed his glass aside. Now, where were we? Oh, right. You were explaining why you felt the need to sneak around behind my back. I wasn't sneaking. I just had lunch. Stop lying to me. His voice rose slightly, then dropped back to that dangerous calm. I can always tell when you're lying, Sophia. Your left eye does this little twitch. It's pathetic, really. You're a terrible liar, which makes me wonder why you keep trying. I forced myself to meet his gaze, to not let the tears building behind my eyes fall. Crying only made him angrier. I'm not lying, I promise. I went to the deli, got a sandwich, ate it in the park across the street, and came back. That's all. I just needed some air. Air. Derek's lip curled. What? The air in the bookstore isn't good enough for you? The job I helped you get? The one you'd never have gotten without me putting in a word with the owner? That atmosphere isn't sufficient for Princess Sophia? The truth was that Derek didn't know the bookstore owner, had never spoken to her, and I'd gotten the job entirely on my own merit. But contradicting him on this point had led to a 3-day silent treatment last time, so I stayed quiet. The waiter returned, this time with a basket of bread and olive oil. Have you decided on your meals? Derek barely glanced at him. I'll have the ribeye, medium rare. She'll have the chicken Caesar salad. Actually, I said quietly, surprising myself. I'd like the salmon, please, with the roasted vegetables. The silence that followed felt like ice cracking. Derek's eyes snapped to mine, and I saw genuine shock there. I never contradicted his orders, never chose something different than what he decided I should eat. The small act of rebellion felt both terrifying and exhilarating. She'll have the salad, Derek said to the waiter, his voice tight. She's been trying to watch her weight. The waiter's pen paused over his notepad. His eyes moved between Derek and me, and I saw something shift in his expression. Miss, what would you like to order? The use of miss instead of addressing Derek felt deliberate, like he was making a point about who had the right to choose my meal. My heart hammered against my ribs. The salad is fine, I whispered, unable to meet either of their eyes. Excellent choice, the waiter said, though his tone suggested he thought it was anything but. I'll put that in for you immediately. After he left, Derek leaned across the table, his voice dropping to a whisper that somehow felt more threatening than shouting. What the hell was that? What was what? Don't play stupid. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You tried to embarrass me in front of the staff. I just wanted salmon. You wanted to make me look bad, to make it seem like I'm controlling what you eat, like I'm some kind of monster. His hand reached across the table again, and I instinctively pulled back. You're lucky I'm patient with you, Sophia. Any other guy would have walked out by now, left you to figure out your own miserable life. But me? I stay. I try to help you be better. And this is the thanks I get. I nodded, swallowing past the lump in my throat. You're right. I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking. You never are. He sat back, satisfied with my surrender. That's why you need me. Someone has to make the decisions because God knows you can't be trusted with anything important. The meal arrived 15 minutes later, delivered by the same dark-eyed waiter who'd witnessed my small rebellion. He set the Caesar salad in front of me with careful precision, and I noticed his hands, strong, with faded scars across the knuckles, not the hands of a career waiter. Enjoy your meal, he said, and there was something in his voice, a subtext I couldn't quite decipher. Sympathy? Anger? Judgment? Derek dug into his steak with aggressive efficiency, cutting pieces too large and chewing with his mouth slightly open. Between bites, he outlined his plans for the weekend. A dinner with his colleagues where I'd need to smile and be charming, not embarrass him the way I had at the last work event by talking too much to his boss's wife. She probably thought I couldn't control my own girlfriend, he said, gesturing with his knife. The way you went on and on about those stupid books you read. Nobody cares about your opinions on literature, Sophia. You're not that interesting. I pushed lettuce around my plate, my appetite gone. The restaurant hummed with conversation around us. Couples laughing, friends sharing wine, people existing in a world that felt impossibly distant from the one I inhabited. Are you even listening to me? Derek's voice cut through my thoughts. Yes, I'm listening. Then what did I just say? I had no idea. You were talking about the dinner on Saturday. Wrong. I was talking about your mother. His eyes narrowed. See? This is what I mean. You're in your own little world, not paying attention to what matters. I said your mother called me today, asking why we never visit. I told her it's because you're too busy with your precious bookstore to make time for family. That was a lie. My mother hadn't called Derek because she didn't have his number. I'd made sure of that after the last time they'd spoken, when he'd told her I was becoming too independent and needed more guidance. But calling him out on the lie would only escalate things. I can call her tomorrow, I offered. You should have called her a week ago, but you forgot, because you forget everything that isn't about you. He set down his silverware with a clatter that made me flinch. I need to use the restroom. Try not to do anything stupid while I'm gone. He stood and walked toward the back of the restaurant, and I finally allowed myself to breathe properly. My wrist throbbed where he'd grabbed it earlier, and I rubbed it absently, trying to restore circulation. Miss? I looked up to find the waiter standing beside the table, his dark eyes serious. I don't mean to intrude, he said quietly, but I couldn't help noticing your wrist. And the way your companion speaks to you. Heat flooded my face. It's fine. We're just having a discussion. That didn't look like a discussion. That looked like intimidation. You don't understand. I understand more than you think. He glanced toward the restrooms, then back to me. My name is Dante. Dante Moretti. And I need you to know something important. I don't think we should be talking. This restaurant is mine. The words hung in the air between us. I blinked, confused. But you're a waiter. Tonight I'm a waiter. Most nights I'm the owner. His expression remained carefully neutral. I like to work the floor occasionally, see how my staff operates, understand the customer experience. It keeps me connected to what matters. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to understand that what I'm about to say comes from a position of authority, not just concern from a random server. Dante's voice dropped even lower. The way that man treats you is unacceptable. The way he grabbed your wrist, the way he speaks to you, the way he controls what you eat. None of that is normal. None of that is love. Tears stung my eyes before I could stop them. You don't know anything about us. I know abuse when I see it. And I know that you deserve better than someone who makes you afraid to order salmon. I'm not afraid. But the words died in my throat because they were a lie, and we both knew it. Here's what I'm going to do, Dante said, pulling a business card from his vest pocket and setting it on the table. I'm going to give you this card. It has the restaurant's number, but if you call and ask for me specifically, you'll reach my private line. Day or night, if you need help, if you need a safe place, if you need anything at all, you call that number. I can't. You can. You just have to choose to. He glanced toward the restrooms again. He's coming back. Put the card somewhere he won't find it. I grabbed the card and shoved it into the small inner pocket of my purse just as Derek reappeared, weaving between tables with that confident stride that used to make me feel protected and now just made me feel trapped. Dante straightened, his expression shifting back to professional neutrality. Is everything satisfactory with your meals? Fine. Derek said dismissively, sliding back into the booth. Bring the check when you get a chance. We're leaving soon. Of course. I'll have that ready for you immediately. As Dante walked away, Derek leaned forward. What did he want? Just checking on the food. He was standing there a long time for just checking on food. He asked if we needed anything else. Derek's eyes narrowed. You better not be lying to me again, Sophia. I'm not. I promise. But I was lying, and the weight of Dante's card in my purse felt both dangerous and hopeful in equal measure. I'd spent 18 months making myself smaller, quieter, more manageable for Derek. 18 months of believing that his criticism was love, that his control was protection, that his anger was justified by my failures. But something about the way Dante had looked at me, the way he'd spoken with such certainty that I deserved better, had cracked something open inside me. A small voice I'd been suppressing whispered that maybe Derek was wrong, maybe I wasn't the problem, maybe I didn't deserve this. The check arrived, and Derek made a show of reviewing it line by line, questioning a charge for extra bread we hadn't ordered. Dante handled it with professional grace, removing the charge without argument, though I saw something flash in his eyes that suggested he was removing it for my sake, not Derek's. Let's go, Derek said, standing and tossing cash on the table without leaving a tip. I want to get home before the game starts. I followed him out of the restaurant, feeling Dante's eyes on us as we left. When I glanced back, he was standing near the bar, watching with an expression I couldn't quite read. But as our eyes met, he nodded once, a small gesture that felt like permission to hope. The drive home was silent. Derek focused on the road while I pressed myself against the passenger door, trying to make sense of what had happened. A restaurant owner had witnessed Derek's treatment of me and called it what it was: abuse. Not a misunderstanding, not a character flaw I needed to overcome, but abuse. The word echoed in my mind, terrifying and liberating all at once. When we arrived at Derek's apartment, I'd moved in 6 months ago when he'd insisted it made financial sense. He grabbed my arm before I could exit the car. I know you think I'm being hard on you, he said, his voice taking on that reasonable tone he used when he was about to deliver what he called a lesson. But it's because I care about you, Sophia. I'm trying to make you better, help you become someone worth keeping around. If I didn't love you, I'd just let you keep making mistakes. I know, I whispered, because that's what he needed to hear. Do you? Because sometimes I wonder if you appreciate everything I do for you. The roof over your head, the guidance I provide, the patience I show when you mess up. His grip on my arm tightened. Most women would kill to have someone who cares as much as I do. I'm grateful. Really. He studied my face for a long moment, then released me. Good. Go inside. I'll be up in a minute. I need to make a call. I escaped to the apartment, my entire body shaking once I was safely inside. The business card felt like it was burning a hole in my purse. Dangerous evidence of a lifeline I didn't know if I was brave enough to reach for. That night, lying in bed while Derek snored beside me, I pulled out my phone and carefully, silently, saved Dante's number under a fake name. Just in case. Just as a backup plan for an emergency I prayed would never come. But deep down, I knew it was only a matter of time before Derek's control tightened further, before his anger escalated beyond words and bruises on my wrist. And when that happened, I'd need someone who understood. Someone who'd already looked at my situation and seen it for what it really was. I'd need Dante Moretti. 3 days passed before Derek found the card. I'd been so careful. I'd hidden it in the zippered compartment of my purse, the one he never checked because it was too small to hold anything he considered important. But on Wednesday evening, when I came home from the bookstore, he was sitting on the couch with my purse dumped out beside him, contents scattered across the cushions like evidence at a crime scene. The business card sat in his hand. What's this? His voice was calm, which was somehow worse than if he'd been yelling. My throat closed. It's nothing, just a card from the restaurant. Marcello's. He read from the card, his tone conversational. Fine Italian dining, and someone wrote a number on the back. Want to explain that? I'd forgotten about the handwritten number. Dante must have added his private line while I wasn't looking. The waiter gave it to me, said we could make reservations directly. Don't lie to me. The explosion came without warning. Derek surged to his feet, closing the distance between us in 2 strides. His hand fisted in my hair, yanking my head back. You think I'm stupid? You think I don't know what this is? Derek, please. Some waiter gives you his personal number and you keep it hidden in your purse for 3 days? His grip tightened, tears springing to my eyes from the pain. What were you planning, Sophia? Were you going to call him? Were you going to fuck him behind my back? No. I swear, I wasn't going to call. Then why did you keep it? He shoved me backward and I stumbled into the wall, my shoulder hitting with enough force to knock the breath from my lungs. Why would you keep some random guy's number unless you wanted to use it? My mind raced for an explanation that would satisfy him, but there was none. Any answer I gave would be wrong. I forgot it was there. I just shoved it in my purse and forgot. You forgot. Derek laughed, a sound devoid of humor. You know what I think? I think you're planning to leave me. I think you've been looking for an excuse, an out, and this waiter gave you one. That's not true, isn't it? He moved closer again, backing me against the wall. You've been different lately, quieter, more secretive, coming home late from work, taking longer lunch breaks. Now I find out you're collecting phone numbers from men at restaurants. What am I supposed to think? I'm not seeing anyone. I would never. His hand connected with my cheek before I saw it coming. The slap wasn't hard enough to knock me down, but it was hard enough to leave my face stinging, my ears ringing. I touched my cheek in shock, unable to process what had just happened. Derek had yelled before. He'd grabbed my wrists, my arms, shoved me a few times. But he'd never hit my face. Never crossed that particular line. Look what you made me do. His voice shook with emotion, anger or fear. I couldn't tell which. Look what happens when you disrespect me, when you keep secrets. This is your fault, Sophia. You pushed me to this. Tears streamed down my face, my cheek throbbing. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry isn't good enough. He grabbed my phone from the couch where I'd dropped it. Unlock it. What? Unlock your phone. Now. I want to see if you've been talking to him. With shaking hands, I entered my passcode. Derek snatched the phone away, scrolling through my messages, my call history, my contacts. I'd saved Dante's number under Dana Bookstore, hoping the generic name would protect it. But Derek was thorough, checking every contact, every conversation. Who the hell is Dana from the bookstore? He demanded. I know everyone you work with, and there's no Dana. She's new, just started last week. He grabbed my face, fingers digging into my jaw. I told you not to lie to me. Who is this number really for? The truth died on my lips. If I admitted it was Dante's number, Derek would do something terrible. I could see it in his eyes, the rage barely contained. I don't know. Maybe I wrote it down wrong. Maybe it's a customer's number. Call it. My stomach dropped. What? Call the number, right now. Let's see who answers. He thrust the phone at me. I stared at the device, my mind blank with panic. If I called and Dante answered, identifying himself, Derek would know I'd lied. But if I refused to call, Derek would know I was hiding something. Either way, I'd already lost. I'm waiting, Derek said, his voice dangerously soft. My finger hovered over the call button. Before I could press it, Derek's phone rang, the sound making us both jump. He glanced at the screen, and his expression shifted from rage to forced professionalism in an instant. "I have to take this. It's my boss." He pointed at me. "Don't move. Don't touch anything. When I'm done with this call, you're calling that number, and we're getting to the bottom of this." He walked into the bedroom, closing the door. I heard his voice change to that smooth, competent tone he used for work, discussing a client account like he hadn't just hit me 30 seconds earlier. My hands trembled as I looked at my phone. I had maybe 5 minutes before Derek finished his call. 5 minutes to decide what to do. The rational part of my brain said to delete Dante's number, pretend it had never existed, take whatever punishment Derek delivered for keeping secrets. That was the safe choice, the one that would end this confrontation quickest. But another part of me, the part that had been slowly waking up since that dinner at Marcello's, whispered that this was the moment. This was when I chose whether to stay in this cycle or break free. Derek had crossed a line tonight. He'd hit my face. And if I stayed, if I apologized and submitted and made myself smaller again, he'd keep crossing lines until there were none left. I opened my messages and typed quickly. "This is Sophia from Marcello's. He found your card. Things are bad. I don't know what to do." I sent it to Dante's number before I could reconsider. Then I sat on the couch, my phone clutched in my hands, waiting. The response came 90 seconds later. "Address. Now." I typed out Derek's address with shaking fingers, then deleted the entire message thread. If Derek checked again, he'd see the contact but no conversation history. Maybe that would be enough. In the bedroom, Derek's voice rose slightly, arguing with his boss about something. I had maybe 2 more minutes. Another message appeared. "Lock yourself in the bathroom. Help is coming. 15 minutes. 15 minutes. I had to survive 15 more minutes. I deleted that message too, then stood on unsteady legs. "Derek," I called toward the bedroom door. "I'm going to use the bathroom." "Fine, make it quick." I grabbed my purse and phone, walked to the bathroom, and locked the door. My reflection in the mirror showed a stranger, red handprint on her cheek, eyes wide with fear, hair messed from where Derek had grabbed it. This was who I'd become. This was what 18 months of loving Derek Mitchell had done to me. I sat on the closed toilet lid and waited, counting seconds in my head. In the bedroom, Derek finished his call. I heard his footsteps approaching. "Sophia? Open the door." "Just a minute." "Open it now." "I'm using the toilet, Derek. Can you give me some privacy?" "You've had enough privacy. That's how we got into this situation in the first place." The doorknob rattled. "Open this door or I'm breaking it down." "Derek, please. I just need a minute." The first kick hit the door with enough force to make the frame shudder. I scrambled backward, pressing myself against the far wall. The second kick created a crack in the wood near the lock. This was it. He was going to break down the door, and I had no way out. The bathroom window was too small to climb through, and even if I could, we were on the 3rd floor. "You're making this worse," Derek shouted, kicking again. "Just open the fucking door, and maybe I'll go easy on you." The lock was giving way. One more solid hit, and it would break completely. Then I heard new voices in the apartment. Male voices, multiple, speaking with authority I didn't recognize. Derek's shouting cut off abruptly, replaced by sounds of a scuffle. Furniture scraping, bodies hitting walls, Derek's voice rising in protest. "Who the hell are you? This is my apartment. You can't just break in here." "We can," and we did. That voice I recognized. Dante. "Where is she?" "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sophia." Dante's voice carried clearly through the door. "If you can hear me, you're safe now. You can come out." I stood on shaking legs and unlocked the door. It swung open to reveal chaos in the living room. 2 large men in dark suits had Derek pinned against the wall, his arms twisted behind his back. Dante stood in the center of the room, wearing dark jeans and a black shirt, looking nothing like the waiter who'd served us dinner 3 nights ago. He looked like exactly what he was: dangerous. "Let me go." Derek struggled against the men holding him. "This is assault. I'll call the cops." "Please do," Dante said calmly. I'm sure they'd be very interested in the bruise forming on Sophia's face. In the damaged bathroom door you were kicking in. In the phone I'm certain you were using to monitor and control her every movement. Derek's eyes found me, and the rage in them made me step back instinctively. "Sophia, tell them. Tell them you're fine. That this is all a misunderstanding." I opened my mouth, the automatic defense ready on my tongue. But looking at him now, held by 2 men who'd appeared out of nowhere because I'd sent a single text message, I saw him clearly for the first time. Not the charming man who'd swept me off my feet. Not the boyfriend who claimed everything he did was for my own good. Just an abuser who'd been caught. "No," I whispered. "What?" "No." Louder this time. "This isn't a misunderstanding. You hit me, Derek. You kicked down the bathroom door. You grabbed my hair and my face and you hurt me. Again. I was trying to teach you. You were trying to control me." The words came out stronger than I expected. "You've been controlling me for 18 months. What I eat, who I talk to, where I go, what I wear. And tonight you hit my face because I had a business card in my purse. That's not love. That's not teaching. That's abuse." If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. Dante moved to stand beside me, a physical barrier between Derek and me. "Here's what's going to happen. My associates are going to escort you out of this apartment. Sophia will pack her belongings. You will not contact her. You will not go near her workplace. You will not attempt to see her in any capacity. If you do, the consequences will be severe. You can't threaten me." That wasn't a threat. That was a promise. Dante's voice dropped to something cold and final. "I protect people in this city. It's what I do. And Sophia is now under my protection. Test those boundaries if you want, but I guarantee you won't like the results." One of the men holding Derek spoke up, his voice heavily accented. "Boss, you want us to take him somewhere specific?" "Take him to a hotel. Pay for 3 nights. That should give Sophia enough time to move her things out." Dante pulled out his wallet and handed over several bills. "Make sure he understands that if he comes back here, if he goes anywhere near her, we'll know." Derek was dragged toward the door, still protesting, still insisting this was all wrong, all illegal. But I noticed he didn't struggle too hard against the men holding him. For all his rage at me, he recognized real danger when he saw it. When the door closed behind them, silence fell over the apartment. I stood frozen in the bathroom doorway, unable to process what had just happened. Dante turned to me, his expression softening. "Are you hurt? Besides your face?" "My wrist, my shoulder, but nothing serious." "Nothing serious," he repeated quietly. "Sophia, he hit you. He was breaking down a door to get to you. That's serious." The reality of the situation crashed over me suddenly. I'd just had my boyfriend forcibly removed from his own apartment by men associated with... what? The mob? I didn't even know who Dante really was, what he did, why he had people who could appear in minutes to extract women from dangerous situations. "I don't understand what's happening," I whispered. "You're safe. That's what's happening." Dante moved slowly, carefully, like he was approaching a frightened animal. "You texted me. You asked for help. I came. That's all you need to understand right now." "But who are you? Really?" "I told you. I own Marcello's." Waiters who own restaurants don't show up with armed men to remove someone's boyfriend from an apartment. They do if they have the resources and connections I have. Dante gestured toward the couch. Sit. Please. You're shaking. I was shaking. My entire body trembled with adrenaline and shock. I sank onto the couch, and Dante sat across from me in the armchair, maintaining distance. I'm going to be honest with you, he said, because you deserve honesty after 18 months of lies. Yes, I own Marcello's. I also own 6 other restaurants in this city, 3 nightclubs, and various other businesses. Some of those businesses are completely legitimate. Some operate in gray areas. I have connections to people that most civilians never interact with. I exist in a world that can be dangerous, complicated, and morally ambiguous. You're in the Mafia. That's a word. I prefer to think of myself as someone who provides services and protection in exchange for loyalty and respect. His dark eyes held mine. But if you need to label it to understand it, then yes, I have ties to organized crime families in this city. I should have been terrified, should have run from the apartment, called the police, put as much distance between myself and Dante Moretti as possible. But all I felt was numb. Why did you help me? Because I saw what he was doing to you. And because I made a promise to myself years ago that I would never stand by and let men like Derek hurt women without consequences. You don't even know me. I know enough. I know you were brave enough to order salmon when he wanted you to have salad. I know you kept my card even though you were terrified he'd find it. I know you locked yourself in a bathroom and texted a stranger for help rather than let him hurt you again. That's all I need to know. Tears welled up, and I couldn't stop them. All the fear and anger and shame I'd been holding back for 18 months came pouring out in racking sobs. Dante didn't try to comfort me physically. He just sat quietly, letting me cry, occasionally passing me tissues from a box on the side table. When I finally cried myself out, my voice came out hoarse. What do I do now? Now you decide what you want. Do you want to stay in this apartment? I can arrange for new locks, security, making sure Derek can't come back. Or do you want to leave? I have properties that are secure, places where you could stay temporarily while you figure out your next steps. I can't afford. I'm not asking you to pay. I'm offering you a safe place to land while you rebuild. Dante leaned forward slightly. Sophia, you just escaped an abusive relationship. You're going to need time and space to heal, to remember who you are outside of Derek's control. Let me provide that space. It was too much, too generous, too suspicious. What do you want in return? Nothing. People don't just help strangers for nothing. I do. Frequently. He stood, moving to look out the window at the city below. My younger sister was in a relationship like yours once. She was 22, beautiful, full of life. Her boyfriend isolated her from our family, convinced her she was worthless, without him. By the time we realized how bad it had gotten, she was too scared to leave. What happened to her? She stayed. And one night, during an argument, he pushed her down a flight of stairs. Dante's voice remained steady, but I heard the pain underneath. She survived, but she broke her back. Spent 6 months in the hospital, another year in physical therapy. She walks now, but she's never been the same, physically or emotionally. I'm so sorry. I am too. Sorry I didn't see the signs sooner. Sorry I didn't intervene before it was too late. Sorry I let her suffer because I respected her choice to stay with him. He turned back to face me. I won't make that mistake again. When I see a woman in danger, I act. Whatever resources I have, whatever connections I can leverage, I use them. Consider it penance, or purpose, or whatever label makes it acceptable to you. But accept the help, Sophia. Please. The sincerity in his voice, in his eyes, was undeniable. This wasn't a manipulation or a trick. Dante Moretti had been shaped by his sister's tragedy into someone who intervened, who protected, who used his questionable connections for something resembling good. Okay, I whispered. Okay, I'll accept your help. But I need to know the rules. What you expect from me. What I'm agreeing to. The only rule is that you focus on healing and rebuilding your life. Get therapy if you want it. I'll cover the costs. Find a new apartment when you're ready. I'll help with deposits and references. Keep working at the bookstore or find new work. I won't interfere with your career. You make your own decisions. Live your own life. I just provide the safety net while you do it. And Derek? Will be handled. He won't bother you again. You have my word. I wanted to ask what handled meant in Dante's world, but part of me didn't want to know. The part of me that was tired of being hurt, tired of being scared, wanted Derek to face consequences. And if those consequences came from a man with mob connections rather than a justice system that rarely protected women like me, maybe that was okay. There's a property in Brooklyn, Dante continued. A townhouse that's currently empty. 3 bedrooms, fully furnished, secure building with a doorman. You could move in tomorrow if you wanted. Stay as long as you need. A townhouse in Brooklyn? That must cost. I own it. The cost to me is negligible. The value to you could be life-changing. He pulled out his phone. I'm going to call someone to help you pack your things tonight. My associate Maria. She's helped other women in similar situations. She'll know what you need, what's worth taking, how to do this efficiently. I can pack my own things. You can. But you're exhausted, traumatized, and running on adrenaline that's going to crash soon. Maria has experience with this. Let her help. He was right. Now that the immediate danger had passed, I could feel my body starting to shut down. My hand still trembled. My cheek throbbed where Derek had hit it. My mind felt foggy, unable to plan more than 5 minutes ahead. Okay, I agreed. But Dante, thank you. For coming. For believing me. For seeing what was happening when everyone else just looked away. You don't need to thank me. You just need to accept that you deserve better than how Derek treated you. And then build a life that reflects that truth. Maria arrived 30 minutes later. A woman in her 50s with kind eyes and efficient movements. She took one look at me and immediately began organizing, pulling suitcases from the closet, sorting through my belongings with the practiced eye of someone who'd done this many times before. Just the essentials tonight, she said in a warm voice with a slight accent. Your clothes, toiletries, important documents, anything with sentimental value. We can arrange to get the rest later if needed, but for now, we focus on what you need to start over. Dante stayed in the living room, making calls and arranging logistics while Maria and I worked. She asked gentle questions about my life, my job at the bookstore, my hobbies, what I liked to do when I wasn't managing Derek's moods. She helped me remember that I existed as a person separate from my relationship. By midnight, I had 3 suitcases packed and sitting by the door. Maria had also collected my important papers, birth certificate, social security card, passport, along with a few photographs of my parents who'd passed away years ago. Ready? Dante asked from the doorway. I looked around the apartment that had been my prison for the past 6 months. Part of me felt like I was abandoning Derek, leaving him to deal with his anger alone. But a stronger part, the part that was slowly waking up, recognized that Derek's anger was his responsibility, not mine. I couldn't fix him. I couldn't make him better. I could only save myself. I'm ready. The townhouse in Brooklyn was exactly as Dante had described, beautiful, secure, and completely empty of memories. Maria stayed with me that first night, making sure I ate something, showing me how to work the security system, sleeping on the couch in case I needed anything. I lay in the massive bed in the master bedroom, my body aching and my mind racing. Tomorrow I'd have to call my boss at the bookstore, explain why I might need a few days off. I'd have to figure out how to untangle my life from Derek's. I'd have to decide what came next. But tonight, for the first time in 18 months, I fell asleep without fear. Without calculating which words might trigger Derek's anger. Without planning escape routes or de-escalation strategies. Without feeling like a prisoner in my own life. Tonight, I was simply safe. And that, I was learning, was everything. 2 weeks in the Brooklyn townhouse, and I was starting to remember what it felt like to be human instead of a target. The mornings were the strangest part. I'd wake up and spend those first few foggy seconds bracing for Derek's mood. Was he angry about something I'd done in my sleep? Was he already awake and cataloging my failures? Then I'd remember where I was, and the relief would wash over me so completely that sometimes I'd just lie there crying from the sheer absence of fear. Maria visited every few days, bringing groceries and checking on me with the gentle persistence of someone who knew I wasn't okay yet, but trusted I would be. She'd lost someone too, she'd told me over tea one afternoon. A daughter who hadn't made it out of her abusive marriage. That's why she worked for Dante now, helping other women escape before it was too late. He saves us, she'd said simply. In return, we help him save others. It's a family of sorts. Broken people protecting each other. I'd return to work at the bookstore after 3 days, wearing concealer to cover the fading bruise on my cheek and telling my boss I'd had a bad fall. She'd looked at me with knowing eyes but hadn't pressed. The bookstore had become my sanctuary, alphabetizing shelves, recommending novels to customers, losing myself in fictional worlds where women were brave and men were held accountable. Dante hadn't visited the townhouse. Not once. He'd called twice to check that I had everything I needed, that the security system was working properly, that Derek hadn't tried to contact me. The conversations were brief, professional, like I was a client rather than someone he'd rescued from a bathroom while my boyfriend kicked down the door. I told myself I was relieved by his distance. Getting attached to my rescuer would be textbook trauma bonding, the kind of psychological mistake that led women from one bad situation into another. But late at night, when the townhouse felt too big and too quiet, I'd remember the way he'd looked at Derek, cold and dangerous and absolutely certain he could protect me, and I'd feel something that definitely wasn't just gratitude. On Thursday evening of my second week, I was curled up on the couch with a novel when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. My stomach tightened automatically. Derek had been blocked on everything, but he could have gotten a new phone, borrowed someone else's, found a way around my defenses. My finger hovered over the delete button. The text appeared. This is Dante. Maria told me you've been eating cereal for dinner. I'm bringing real food in 20 minutes. Don't argue. Despite everything, I smiled. Then I panicked. The townhouse was a mess. My mess. Accumulated over 2 weeks of learning to be alone. Dishes in the sink, books scattered across every surface, laundry I'd folded but not put away sitting in baskets around the living room. I scrambled to clean, shoving things into closets and running dishes underwater. Halfway through, I caught myself and stopped. This was my space. Dante had given it to me without conditions. If he showed up and found it lived in, that was fine. I wasn't performing perfection anymore. That was Derek's game. Still, I changed out of my ratty sweatpants into jeans and ran a brush through my hair. Small vanities I could allow myself. The doorbell rang exactly 20 minutes after his text. I checked the security monitor, another upgrade Dante had insisted on, and saw him standing on the stoop holding 2 large bags that smelled incredible even through the door. I brought Italian, he said when I opened it, moving past me into the kitchen with familiar ease. Real Italian, not the tourist trap versions. Maria's recipe for chicken marsala, homemade pasta, tiramisu that will make you believe in God. You didn't have to do this. Maria was worried. When Maria worries, she makes me worry. When I worry, I cook. He started unpacking containers, and I noticed he moved around the kitchen like he'd been there before. Have you eaten anything besides cereal and coffee in the past 48 hours? I had a granola bar yesterday. Madonna. He muttered something in Italian that sounded like a prayer for patience. Sit. I'm reheating everything properly. We're eating like civilized people tonight. I sat at the kitchen island and watched him work. He'd rolled up his sleeves, revealing the tattoos I'd glimpsed at the restaurant, intricate designs that looked like they told a story I couldn't read. His movements were efficient, practiced, the movements of someone who genuinely enjoyed cooking rather than just going through motions. How did you know I was eating cereal for dinner? I asked. Maria noticed your groceries were mostly breakfast food, and when she checked the kitchen last time, the only dirty dishes were cereal bowls. He glanced at me. Depression eating. It's common after leaving abusive relationships. Your body's in survival mode, and cooking feels like too much effort. You know a lot about this. I've helped a lot of women leave dangerous situations. You learn the patterns. He plated pasta with the kind of care usually reserved for fine dining. The first few weeks are the hardest. You're safe, but your brain hasn't caught up yet. It's still running threat assessments, still expecting punishment for relaxation. He was right. Even now, sitting in my own kitchen, I was subconsciously tracking his mood, his movements, preparing for the moment when kindness would flip to anger. With Derek, it had always flipped eventually. He hasn't contacted me, I said quietly. Derek. Not once in 2 weeks. I kept expecting him to show up at the bookstore or find a way to message me, but nothing. It's like he just vanished. Dante set a plate in front of me. That's because I made it very clear what would happen if he tried. What did you do? Had a conversation, explained his options. Dante poured wine, red, expensive looking. Derek Mitchell is many things, but he's not stupid. He understood the reality of his situation. Which is that attempting to contact you would result in consequences he's not prepared to face. Dante's voice remained casual, like we were discussing the weather. Men like Derek are cowards. They prey on people they perceive as weaker, but when confronted with real power, they fold. All I had to do was make the power dynamic clear. I took a bite of pasta to avoid responding. It was incredible. Rich and perfectly seasoned, the kind of food that made you remember eating could be pleasure instead of just fuel. This is amazing! Family recipe, my grandmother's, technically, though I've adjusted it over the years. He sat across from me with his own plate. How's work been? Good. Normal. My boss has been understanding about the schedule flexibility. I hesitated. She asked if I was okay, if I needed anything. I think she knows something happened. Does that bother you? Yes and no. Part of me wants to keep it private, pretend it never happened. But another part is tired of hiding, of protecting Derek's reputation while I deal with the aftermath alone. You're not alone anymore. Dante's dark eyes held mine. And you don't owe Derek protection. What he did to you, the control, the violence, the systematic destruction of your autonomy, that's his shame to carry, not yours. Tears pricked my eyes before I could stop them. Why are you doing this? Really? You keep saying it's about your sister, about promises you made, but there has to be more. You barely know me. I know enough. He set down his fork. I know you're intelligent. You work in a bookstore because you love literature, not because it pays well. I know you're brave. You kept my card despite knowing Derek would be furious if he found it. I know you're stronger than you think. You're still functioning after 18 months of psychological warfare that would have broken most people. I don't feel strong. I feel broken. Broken things can be repaired. Sometimes they're even stronger at the broken places once they heal properly. Dante leaned back in his chair. You want the real reason I'm helping you? Because the night I saw Derek grab your wrist at my restaurant, I saw my sister's boyfriend grabbing her the same way, and I was too young, too powerless to stop it back then. But I'm not powerless anymore, Sophia. I have resources, connections, the ability to intervene, and I refuse to stand by and do nothing when I can do something. So I'm your penance? You're my purpose. There's a difference. He smiled slightly. Also, you're much better company than most of the people I spend time with. Criminals are exhausting conversationalists. Everything is either bragging or paranoia. Despite myself, I laughed. It felt foreign, that sound coming from my throat. When was the last time I'd genuinely laughed? Before Derek, probably. Back when joy was something I could access without permission. We ate in comfortable silence for a while, and I noticed how different this felt from dinners with Derek. There was no tension here, no walking on eggshells, no calculating which topics. We're safe. Dante asked about the book I was reading, and we fell into an easy discussion about literature that ranged from Italian classics to contemporary fiction. You should go back to school, he said eventually. You mentioned you had to drop out. What were you studying? English literature. I wanted to be a professor, teach at the college level. The dream felt impossibly distant now. But that was before my parents died, before the money ran out, before Derek convinced me education was a waste when I could be working. It's not too late. You're what, 26? 27. Still young enough to finish your degree and build the career you wanted. Dante pulled out his phone, typed something. I have connections at several universities in the city. I could make some calls, help you navigate readmission. No. The word came out sharper than I intended. I appreciate everything you've done, but I can't let you manage my entire life. I need to do some things on my own. Prove to myself I'm capable without someone else orchestrating everything. Instead of being offended, Dante looked pleased. Good. That's exactly the right instinct. I apologize. I have a tendency to fix things, and sometimes I forget that people need to fix themselves. It's not that I don't appreciate it. You don't need to explain. Autonomy is important, especially for you right now. He stood, starting to clear plates. But if you do decide to explore going back to school, you'll tell me? Not so I can fix it, but so I can celebrate with you? Deal. We cleaned up together, falling into an easy rhythm that felt domestic in a way that should have been uncomfortable, but wasn't. Dante washed while I dried, and he told me stories about the restaurant business. The celebrity chef who'd thrown a tantrum over improperly folded napkins, the marriage proposal that had gone wrong when the ring fell into the lobster bisque, the food critic who'd given them a terrible review and then tried to bribe Dante for a better one. You love it, I observed. The restaurant. Despite all the stress and chaos. I do. It's one of the few parts of my life that's completely clean, completely mine. No family obligations, no criminal connections, just food and service and making people happy for a few hours. He handed me the last plate. Everyone needs something pure in their life. Something untainted by the complicated parts. Marcello's is mine. What about the other restaurants you own? Those are business. Marcello's is personal. He dried his hands on a towel. My grandmother used to cook in that space. It was a small Italian grocery store she ran with my grandfather. When they died, I bought the property and converted it. Every recipe on the menu is hers. Every detail designed to honor her memory. It's my way of keeping her alive. The vulnerability in his voice caught me off guard. This dangerous man who'd extracted me from an abusive relationship with military efficiency had a grandmother he wanted to honor through pasta recipes. The contradiction was jarring and somehow comforting, proof that people could contain multitudes, that darkness and light could coexist. She'd be proud, I said softly, of what you've built, of who you've become. I hope so, though she'd probably have opinions about my life choices. He smiled sadly. She wanted me to be a doctor, save lives legitimately. I think helping women escape abuse would count, but the methods would give her heart problems. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story. We moved to the living room and Dante poured more wine. The evening had taken on a dreamlike quality, sitting with a relative stranger who somehow felt familiar, discussing deep topics like we'd known each other for years instead of weeks. Can I ask you something? I ventured. And you can tell me if it's too personal? Ask. Your sister, the one who was hurt, is she... does she know about me? About the women you help? Dante's expression shuddered slightly. Gabriella knows I do this work? Yes. She doesn't know details. I keep the women I help anonymous for their protection and hers. But she knows that her experience wasn't wasted, that it led to something meaningful. Is she okay now? Define okay. He swirled his wine. She walks. She works. She's a therapist now, specializing in domestic violence survivors. She has friends, hobbies, a life. But she's not the same person she was before. Trauma changes you fundamentally. You can heal. You can build something new, but you can't go back to who you were before. His words settled over me like a weight. I'd been operating under the assumption that I'd eventually return to the Sophia I was before Derek, the optimistic graduate student with dreams of academia and a future full of possibilities. But Dante was right. That Sophia was gone. The question wasn't how to get her back, but who I'd become instead. That's terrifying, I whispered. It's also liberating. You get to choose who you become now. Not Derek, not trauma, not fear. You. Dante set down his glass. And from what I've seen, Sophia, you're choosing strength. You're choosing autonomy. You're choosing to rebuild despite how much easier it would be to stay broken. I don't feel like I'm choosing strength. Most days I feel like I'm barely surviving. That's what strength looks like in the beginning. Small choices, getting out of bed, going to work, eating something besides cereal, having a conversation without calculating every word for potential danger. He gestured between us. This, right now. You're sitting across from a man who could be threatening, but you're not performing for me. You're being authentic. That's strength. I wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe that these small, painful steps were actually progress, but doubt whispered that I was just trading one dangerous man for another, that Dante's protection would eventually come with conditions I couldn't meet. As if reading my mind, Dante leaned forward. I know what you're thinking, that this is too good to be true, that I'll eventually expect something in return, that I'm just Derek with better packaging. But Sophia, I need you to understand. I'm not rescuing you because I want to own you. I'm providing space and resources so you can rescue yourself. There's a significant difference. How do I know that? You don't. Not yet. Trust takes time, especially when yours has been violated so thoroughly. He stood, pulling out his keys. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave now. Give you space. I won't visit unless you ask me to. I'll have Maria check on you weekly, but that's it. You control the frequency and nature of our contact going forward. That way you can see through your actions. Not my words, that I mean what I say about autonomy. Panic fluttered in my chest. You're leaving? You need space to heal without someone hovering, and I need to demonstrate that I respect your boundaries, even when you don't explicitly set them. He moved toward the door. But Sophia, if you need anything, if Derek contacts you, if you feel unsafe, if you just need to talk, you call me immediately. That part isn't negotiable. I walked him to the door, feeling oddly bereft. In the span of a few hours, he'd made the townhouse feel less empty, made me feel less alone. And now he was leaving because he thought it was what I needed. Maybe it was. Thank you, I said at the door. For dinner. For the conversation. For understanding what I need, even when I don't. You're welcome. He paused on the threshold. One more thing. Derek applied for a restraining order against me. Claims I threatened him, had him illegally removed from his apartment. Various other accusations. My stomach dropped. What? Can he do that? He can try. It won't go anywhere. I have witnesses, documentation, evidence of his abuse toward you that justifies my intervention. But I wanted you to know in case he tries to use it as leverage to contact you. He might claim he needs your testimony. What should I do if he reaches out? Don't respond. Forward anything he sends directly to me. His lawyer is likely using this as a fishing expedition, trying to find out where you are and what you know. Dante's expression hardened. But he won't find you, Sophia. You're protected. Legally, physically, completely. After he left, I stood in the doorway for a long time, processing. Derek was fighting back, trying to reclaim control through legal channels since direct contact was impossible. Part of me wanted to ignore it, pretend he'd simply disappeared. But another part, the one slowly waking up, recognized that I'd need to face him eventually. Not physically, not in a way that gave him access to me, but legally. Testimony, documentation, making sure what he'd done to me was on record. I pulled out my phone and called the one person who'd been with me through everything. Sophia. My best friend Rachel's voice was warm with relief. Oh my God, I've been so worried. You disappeared, stopped answering texts, and when I went by Derek's apartment, the landlord said you'd moved out. I left him, I said simply. 2 weeks ago. It got bad, Rachel. Really bad. Silence. Then, where are you? Are you safe? Do you need me to come get you? I'm safe. I'm in Brooklyn, in a secure place. But I need to tell you everything, and I need you to just listen without judging the choices I made to get here. Can you do that? Of course. Always. So I told her. Everything. Derek's escalating control, the dinner at Marcello's, the business card, Derek finding it and hitting me, Dante's rescue, the townhouse, the complicated reality of being protected by someone with criminal connections. Rachel listened without interrupting, and when I finished, her response was immediate. I'm coming over. Right now. Give me the address. Rachel, it's late. I don't care. You just told me you were hit by your boyfriend and rescued by the mob. I'm coming over. We're having wine, and we're processing this together. That's not negotiable. Despite everything, I smiled. Okay. But fair warning, I'm already a glass of wine in, so I might be emotional. Good. Emotional is honest. Emotional means you're feeling things again instead of just surviving. I heard keys jingling, a door closing. Address. Now. I gave her the address, and 45 minutes later, Rachel burst through the door with 2 bottles of wine, a pint of ice cream, and fierce determination in her eyes. Show me where he hit you, were her first words. I pointed to my cheek, where the bruise had faded to a barely visible yellow. She examined it with the intensity of a detective, then pulled me into a hug so tight I could barely breathe. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I should have seen it. Should have known something was wrong when you stopped hanging out, stopped responding to texts. I thought you were just busy with Derek, being a couple. I didn't realize he was isolating you. It's not your fault. It's his fault. Only his. She pulled back, wiping her eyes. But I should have been more persistent. Should have shown up at your door, demanded to see you. I let you disappear. I was good at hiding it. Derek taught me how to lie convincingly. We sat on the couch, and Rachel opened wine with aggressive efficiency. Tell me about this Dante person, and don't leave anything out. I need to know if you're safe, or if you've just traded one dangerous man for another. So I told her everything I knew about Dante, the restaurant, his sister's story, his connections to organized crime, the way he'd given me space and autonomy even while providing protection. Rachel listened with the sharp intelligence that had made her a successful lawyer, asking pointed questions, probing for red flags. "Okay," she said finally. "Here's my professional and personal opinion. Yes, he's dangerous. Yes, he operates outside legal boundaries. Yes, getting involved with someone like him could complicate your life in ways you can't predict. But, and this is important, he's given you something Derek never did: choice. He extracted you from immediate danger, provided safe housing, and then stepped back to let you decide next steps. That's not predatory behavior. But what if it changes? What if he decides he does want something in return? Then you use the resources he's given you to leave. You're not dependent on him financially. You have your job. You're not isolated. You have me. You have Maria. And if worst comes to worst, you have documentation of everything Derek did and Dante's role in extracting you. That's leverage." Rachel squeezed my hand. "I'm not saying trust him completely, but I am saying don't let fear of one dangerous man prevent you from accepting help from another who seems genuinely invested in your recovery." We talked late into the night, processing everything that had happened. Rachel helped me see patterns I'd missed, how Derek had slowly eroded my confidence, isolated me from friends, made me dependent on his approval. But she also helped me see my own resilience, the ways I'd resisted even while appearing compliant. "You kept my number," she pointed out. "Even when Derek told you I was a bad influence, you never actually deleted my contact. That's not nothing, Soph. That's your survival instinct working underneath all his programming." She was right. I'd hidden parts of myself from Derek, maintained small rebellions he'd never discovered. The books I'd read at work during slow periods, all the ones he'd said were too intellectual for me, the money I'd skimmed from grocery budgets and hidden in an old tampon box, knowing he'd never look there. The journal I'd kept at the bookstore, documenting his worst moments in case I ever needed evidence. I'd been preparing to leave long before I'd consciously admitted it. My subconscious had been building escape routes, while my conscious mind was still trying to make the relationship work. "You're stronger than you think," Rachel said, echoing Dante's words. "And you're going to get through this. Not just survive it, but actually heal and build something better." I believe that completely. I wanted to believe it too. Wanted to believe that this townhouse was a cocoon instead of a cage, that the fear would eventually fade, that I'd emerge from this experience transformed instead of just damaged. After Rachel left, promising to visit again soon, I stood at the window looking out at Brooklyn's nighttime lights. Somewhere out there, Derek was probably nursing his rage, planning his next move. Somewhere out there, Dante was managing his complicated empire, protecting other women, honoring promises made to a sister who'd survived. And here I was, standing alone in a space that was mine, making choices that were mine, slowly remembering what it felt like to be a person instead of a possession. It wasn't much, but it was a beginning. And sometimes I was learning. Beginnings were enough. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.